Okay, I think we're live.
Yay!
We are live. So hello everybody. This is Lynn Weems. It's 4:59 and we go live at 5. So we're just going to give people a couple of seconds to come on and then we will get started. You're probably recognizing this face, or I'm not sure which way you're seeing her on your screen, but this is Catherine Arkema, a very good friend of mine who has an excellent story to tell you today. So I'm really excited about having her on live and about to share something that I think will help a lot of people that may be facing this. If they haven't already, they may be, right? Hopefully not, but we'll do our best to make sure that they don't have to.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
So we're at 5 o'clock. So welcome everybody. My name is Lynn Weems. I'm coming to you live from a different kind of better. What is a different kind of better? It is a platform for anybody that works in the wellness arena that would like to help educate the world on a global basis, basically on health tips and ways to get better in a different way than what you're usually exposed to. So we're going to get started. Those of you who know me, every Tuesday we do this at 5 p.m. and I have to read a disclaimer first just to protect us. So bear with us. We'll get the formalities out of the way and we'll get started as soon as possible. So the disclaimer is that this presentation webinar may contain general information about various medical conditions and their treatment. It does not provide medical advice. The information provided through this presentation is for informational purposes only. The purpose of this message is to promote an understanding and knowledge of various health topics. It is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Before beginning any type of natural, integrative, or conventional treatment regimen, it is recommended that you always seek the advice of a licensed healthcare professional. So that is done and we are now ready to go. So you're looking at two healthy people today, but it isn't always that way. We are, every once in a while in our lifetime exposed to critical conditions. You've heard my story, you've heard my daughter's story, you've heard other people's stories recently. And I thought I'd continue on this path because it seems to be a topic that some people really enjoy hearing about people's situations that they may be exposed to in their lifetime and how they come out the other side, how it affects them while they're in it and how it affects them when they come out of it. So today we have Catherine who traveled earlier in the year. We had traveled together the month before. So I was glad I didn't do this trip with you.
I know, it's close call.
So I'm going to let Catherine tell you what happened to her, and you're gonna like this one, folks. So hang in there. So Catherine, first of all, I do want to thank you for being willing to come on and share this story with the world, and I'm sure it's going to help some people. So thank you for doing that.
Absolutely, absolutely. So those who have followed me during my journey, you know what this journey is all about. You saw how it happened. But for those of you who don't, yes, my name's Catherine Arkema, and I, at the time, was a designer that was traveling quite a bit. And I often flew into the States and did a lot of business travel over there. So we were in Texas? I was in Vegas. Yep. And then I ended up I flew into Raleigh, North Carolina, and took a venture over to High Point, North Carolina, where I was at a photo shoot. And I spent a number of days there doing the photo shoot, having dinner with colleagues and other people in the industry, to come home. And I arrived on the Tuesday. And by the following Monday, when I was home, I was sick. And I was sick with COVID. The crazy part was the Monday, the previous week, I had a talk with my boss and we decided everything was okay. There was no worries. Like everything seemed okay. So there was no worries about traveling. And when we were down there, it was literally it has exploded. I landed into Raleigh, North Carolina, and we went out for lunch. By the time we had reached High Point, we had heard the news that even Raleigh at that point was experiencing a high number of cases, so they were concerned. Um, and we had dinner with a colleague who, through so many touch points, all of us got sick from it. Um, and it was something that the symptoms, the way they presented themselves, weren't what I had heard, but my colleague who I traveled with, she definitely had the classic symptoms. But we all contracted it. Not everybody at the photo shoot did, because we kept our distance quite a bit, because we were very aware when we were there how the numbers were rising. But when the first day, we went out for dinner and with a friend, and sharing appetizers, like scooping it out, putting on your plate, just with friends, having a good meal. And from that, all three of us were sick from it. So it was easily spread between the three of us, and we all got sick from a matter of time. From the Friday was the first of the three of us, and then Sunday, and then I was the last one on the Monday.
Yeah, so your situation is a little different in that where you got it, right? Somebody you were with, I believe, had some minor symptoms, right? Can you explain what those were?
Well, she hadn't had the symptoms at the time, but her boss did, and they didn't think it was COVID. They just thought he was sick with a cold. And we ran in, so there was three of us sitting at a table eating, and her boss's partner came up and said hello to us, and her boss was the one that was tested positive first out of the group. And so her partner, the partner came up, and she was speaking to the three of us ladies that were at the table. And so there was a number of any different ways that it could have been passed, but we know where it sort of originated from. And yeah, and so she was the one who had the boss that she worked with. She was the first one to get sick out of us, out of all three of us. So yeah, we do know where it originated from. And it just happened.
Yeah, so you're saying that you were the last to get sick. So how did you find out eventually that somebody you had been with was positive?
Yeah. Well, my boss who I had traveled with, she had sent out an email. I believe it was Sunday, saying I was really sick last night. She actually it was on the Saturday night she started to really feel it. And she had sent out an email, and then I got a text from her on the Sunday saying I'm sick, and so was the other female that we had had dinner with, and that she had the 104.5 fever. She was going to see about getting tested. And at that time, they weren't giving out tests. So we're here in Canada. And so she contacted public health. I contacted public health the next day. And it was not an option for us. Like, that was not an option for us. They said, yes, we realize you had traveled outside of the States. We just need you to quarantine. You need to stay home. We don't have enough tests. And they all went to healthcare providers. Now, that was quite a struggle for us. I think that was the biggest struggle in the beginning, was trying to figure out what the heck was going on. Because when I got the symptoms on the Monday, it didn't present themselves the same way it did for my boss. So she had the 104-degree fever. She had the coughing, the chest, and so did her husband. Her husband got it as well, just as bad. And that wasn't the case for my household. It was strange. When I got home, I did my part, and I separated from the group. So I have 3 kids and a husband, and we all kind of separated. I have a little girl who is 7. So she was probably, her and my husband were probably the closest to me, because, a little girl, she wants to be close to her mom, right? But when I got sick, it started off as this really weird headache that started up from the back of my shoulders and went up the back of my neck. And it was like a heat. And there was a pressure, and it was not like a headache like I had ever experienced. It didn't feel like anything I had ever experienced. And there was this weird pressure coming right back up from the base of my head. And then from there, the day just went downhill. I felt exhausted. I felt really, really dizzy. I believe that was the day that I had if you want to call it a fever, like it was 100 degrees. Like I never went above that. In fact, I didn't have a fever at all the rest of the time. I just dropped below. And I wasn't taking anything because I wanted to monitor my symptoms. We were told at the time not to take Advil, so I wasn't taking Advil. I did take Tylenol when my headache was so bad back here, the pressure in the back of my head when I first had it. But after that, I didn't, because I wanted to stay very aware of what my symptoms were and monitor them. Now, my symptoms for me were this headache, this dizziness, and fatigue like I've never experienced before. I basically spent the next week and a half in my bedroom, quarantining for one, but dizzy in bed, sleeping. Like I couldn't get out of bed. It would be 11 o'clock and I'd open my eyes like it was 4 a.m. All I wanted to do was just sleep. And when I would get up, so when we talk about the loss of breath or the coughing or anything like that, when I would get out of bed to go do something, whatever it may be, when I was starting to feel a little better, I thought, oh, I can do something. I walked down the hall to my laundry room and I'd be out of breath, like just exhausted, couldn't breathe. Not in the fact that I couldn't breathe, but I just was like, like I had just run a marathon. And so I would be able to just kind of venture here and there through my house. I'd maybe come downstairs and sit on the couch. And this was kind of when I was nearing the end of it all. But the exhaustion was what kept me in my bed. And if I picked up my phone to even look at my phone for a minute or two, my head was completely dizzy. My body was achy. My back, I didn't realize the amount of muscle tension I had. So me and my husband look back at it now and we kind of laugh like, oh my gosh, that sore back that we were complaining about was part of the virus. Like the muscles between my shoulder blades and in my upper back were so tight and so knotted. I would do anything. Like I'd lean up against the wall with like a ball or a water bottle to try to relieve some of the knots and the tension in the muscles that were in my back. And, sleeping at night was really hard, even though I was exhausted. I had like restless legs. I had an achy body, everything and it didn't hurt like it did with the flu. Like the flu is, you touch me and it hurts, like that high fever hurt. No, this was just like all my muscles were so tense and so stiff that they were just achy, just so achy. And having a warm bath or a massage really never relieved them. And so my symptoms weren't, I never had the fever. I never had the coughing. I had a headache, I had dizziness, and I had fatigue. Mm-hmm. That's how it presented itself for me.
And what I'm loving you explained today is that, we all know that it's hitting people very differently. Mm-hmm. And everybody's symptoms are different. So we can't, sort of say, oh, well, we need to look for that cough or that fever. I mean, I went somewhere yesterday and they wanted my wrist to take my temperature. And I'm thinking, well, it doesn't mean anything. I mean, no. I mean, if I was really active, like most people, they'd be home in bed by the time they get the fever. They're feeling so terrible, right? Mm-hmm. But I guess it's, it's good to have as a safeguard no matter what anyway, right? Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's so 4 people, all with 4 different scenarios, roughly. Like none of you had the same symptomatology. But luckily enough, all 4 of you survived this. Mm-hmm. Now, Catherine, is talking a lot about her pain, but there was definitely some ER trips, right? Where you felt like you just couldn't catch your breath, all those kinds of things. So what was the medical side of the treatment for you? What was prescribed for you or recommended for you from the medical side?
Well, you helped me.
We'll get to that later.
Let's just be clear on this. I am blessed to have you as a friend, because while I was going through this, Lynn was texting me and calling me and saying, what are you taking? What are you doing? What are your blood, your blood oxygen levels at? Like you played a huge role in controlling my sanity as well. Mm-hmm. During that time, and I also, it's strange to look back at our family too. So this is another thing. the closer the individuals got to me, the time they spent close to me, the more severe their symptoms were.
Mhm.
So my husband, he had the headache, the back pain, the dizziness, the fatigue, and he was working from home at the time. While I was totally out, he was trying to manage the house with the kids, and he kept saying, I have these symptoms, and he felt like garbage too, but he just kind of plowed through. My littlest daughter, the 7-year-old, she had a cold and a fever. Like she had a fever and a runny nose, and that persisted for about 3-4 days. My eldest daughter, she would have been the next in line, and she just had the dizziness and the headache for a day or two. And my youngest son, when I got home, he was busy playing with the world. Like hey mom, and out of here kind of thing. He just had like this cough that he woke up with one day, and he just like sounded a little bit phlegmy, and 2 days it was completely gone. Like he was like a blip in the radar.
Mhm.
And so there was this weird gamut for all of us. Um, Now things didn't end for me after my COVID got better. That was where the journey began, I would
Yeah.
say. Mhm.
And this is an important part of the story, actually.
That is where
Yeah.
my journey began. So I finally woke up. It took me about a week and a half. I woke up. I felt great. I felt the spike of energy again. I was like, oh, I'm back to my old self. And guess what? I started working out. And then a day or two later, I dropped like a tank again. And this persisted for, well, for a good couple weeks afterwards, this bouncing up and down between extreme fatigue, feeling better, extreme fatigue, feeling better, tightness in my chest, and even right over my heart, that I actually thought I may have been having a heart attack. Like it was tightening up over my heart. And I was like, is this something to be concerned about? Like it's tightening up right over my heart. And so my doctor, who were very aware of my situation, but at the time it was just stay at home. And if you were not in emerge care, then you just stay at home and get well. And so I wasn't considered contagious at this point, but they wanted to know why I was still having these really up and down symptoms, why I was like out flat on my couch, I could hardly even move, was out of breath again. One day I was walking up the stairs and I had to sit down in my bathroom in my bedroom, and I was just so out of breath. Like I would have to do deep belly yoga breathing breath. And so they sent me to Emerge to have a whole bunch of tests done. I had to make sure I had no blood clots, to make sure my heart was okay. They did a whole bunch of tests and everything came back clean. And it was when having conversations with a cardiologist and my doctor, like this is how far it escalated. That I'm having phone conversations with cardiologists saying, okay, so we know this is the after effects of COVID. You have severe inflammation in the tissue between your chest bones, the lining around your heart, and the lining around your lungs, and it's tightening. So that lack of breath that you feel is because everything is so inflamed left over from this that it needs to heal. And so they had me on just a regimen of Aleve and taking Aleve to try to reduce the inflammation. And that's not the only thing I did. I mean, Lynn and I, we spoke, and I was on vitamins. I had been on vitamins, a regime of vitamins to try to keep my immunity up. And I would say I had incredible health. Like I hadn't been sick in a year prior to getting COVID. And so I had considered myself a really healthy person. I worked out 5-6 times a week or days a week. I ate well. I was an intermittent faster too, and that is supposed to help build immunity and a whole bunch of great things in your body too. So I considered myself a very healthy person. So this set me back, but it was finally in the summer. So I got sick in March, April, May, June. We started working together at the end of July. 5 months of continually tanking and my energy being so low, and days where I would just wake up and be like, I can't even get out of bed. Like I can't get out of bed. And working from home and everybody being home, it was so easy to just stay in bed because you were so tired. And it wasn't a depression because I wasn't depressed, but I did not feel myself and I couldn't get out of it.
Mhm.
So enter you.
Yeah, enter me. This was, you hate forcing yourself on anybody, right? It's like you sit back and you say, well, I think I can help her, but how do I approach her? and finally I just got up enough nerve. I think I
Mhm.
just called you one day and said, are you going to let me try and help you? And,
Yeah.
we talked a little bit and she said, yeah, okay. So we basically started, I think we upped the doses of your, your vitamins and minerals that you're on
Mhm.
to, safe levels, but
Mhm.
therapeutic levels. And then also put you on some frequencies.
Mhm.
And, I told Catherine that, this isn't going to be an overnight process. This is going
Mhm.
to, be something that can take some time, but you'll start noticing some differences, hopefully shortly, which you did. The funny thing is when we set this up, it's kind of like, uh, that it's a 30-day period. And I had some new equipment that I was working with and didn't realize that on that 30th day, it actually shuts off. I thought it would just keep running the same programs for longer until I went in and changed them, right? Because we always, tweak them sometimes. But no, lo and behold, it actually shuts them off. So that was a lesson learned for me. However, the great thing in that lesson is that lo and behold, it was within, I think, 15 hours that I got this phone call from Catherine who said, oh my gosh, I'm really down today. And I can't even get out of bed. I don't know what's going on with me. I said, well, let me go in and check things out. Went in and realized, what time did you start feeling rough? And it was exactly at that same time that we had stopped, that the equipment had stopped working.
Mhm.
So living
Mhm.
proof, she was actually great for me in helping me realize that these actually do work and make a difference. So the exciting thing is that over that 6-month period, because I think when we first originally started, I can't remember how many systems you had down, but literally it was close to the 20, I
59. I
think.
had 59 systems. I thought I had
Yeah.
59
It,
down.
it,
Then I had a
it,
whole bunch that were over regulating, and I was a mess, like a
yeah,
mess. And the number one thing that came up was the inflammation.
yeah, yeah. And the great thing
Mhm.
is that you get to
I
see that,
remember.
right? You get to see visibly
Mhm.
that it's there right in black and white print for you to see. But the
Mhm.
interesting thing is, as soon as we put her back on, she was up and out of bed within, I think it was less than half an hour. And she was saying, I'm out of bed.
I know, like wow.
And yeah, so, and I think that happened twice in the first couple of
Mhm.
months, right? Because
Yeah.
I was swamped and so busy and didn't get to it on time. But yes, I think last week we actually re-looked at things and she was down to like 6 systems that
Mhm.
just needed a little bit more work. And so, but tell us how that, you know, we're talking about COVID and this therapy worked for you. This particular therapy worked really well for you, as well as, giving you some things that help you at a cellular level as well.
Mhm.
But we know that COVID goes beyond how it impacts you, right? We know that the impact on family members and people around you are, you know, they suffered too. And I'm not just talking about your children and your husband that were living in your home with you. We're talking about the family that, can't come and visit you and they feel helpless because they're at their home and you're at your home and you have this scary virus that people are literally dying from. And this is my child, like you're somebody's child. It's not
Mhm.
just about your children. You are somebody's child. You're somebody's daughter, right? You're somebody's niece. You're somebody's best friend. How did it impact them knowing that this whole house was dealing with this horrible situation?
Yeah, I think both my husband and I, our parents were very worried for us, and constantly checking in and seeing how we were doing. Even my friends, I would get texts from my girlfriends that were like, "Are you alive? I'm still worried about you." So,
You can
they
actually
were
say
worried
that.
too.
You can actually say, "Are you alive?"
But they were stressing. One of my girlfriends said afterwards, like, I was really, really honestly concerned. And at the time, and we were so new, we were when they, there's people now that have come back to say, yeah, I think I had it prior to that. But
Mhm.
during that outbreak, like I literally was the week, everything, that March break, everything, I got home and everything, the world shut down kind of thing. And
Mhm.
so we were all in our homes doing our best. And I had so many people say, what can we bring you, and drop you off at the door. And we had so many beautiful little gifts dropped off at the door,
Yeah.
baked goods. And because people were just so concerned and really, really, really genuinely worried um, for us. And it was so heartfelt. Like it made me realize community, sense of community, how awesome people are to pull through for others who are in need. And truthfully, I was like, how are we going to get our groceries? How are we like, there is that concern.
Mhm.
Things I did say to my husband when I was away on the trip, because things started shutting down there before they shut down at home. And I could
Mhm.
see it all happening. Like the news was just going nuts there. Schools closing, this closing. When I walked into the Raleigh airport to go home, there was nobody. It was dead. And, on those days prior, I was calling my husband and I said to him, go get as many supplies as you can. Because I kind of foresaw. And I was actually supposed to come home and I was supposed to go to my friend's house. We were going to go over to a friend's house and have drinks and get together. And I canceled it because I was like, I was traveling in a high risk area that blew up while I was there. Um, I don't want to spread this to any of you. And it was a good thing that we did because um, I was infected and I did have it. But those who they reached out, there was nothing they could really do. Just sit back and watch.
Yeah, and when you think about it, and this is why people do need to be careful because, you were sitting on a plane totally healthy in an enclosed space,
Mhm.
with, and people need to understand this, that just because somebody looks healthy does not mean that they do not have this virus or in the contagious stages of the virus. I keep hearing different things, that it's contagious 2 days before you. It depends on, what you're reading. However, I think caution is always the best way to, you know, look at something. And me, I'm a big advocate. When this all started, the first thing I was doing was calling you, saying you need to get on zinc, you need to get on vitamin D, you need to get on vitamin C, and telling you, basically, and you don't have to listen to me if you don't want to, but let me tell you, your best immune system is you. Well, maybe some of that helped a little bit, right? Because I'm reading more and more studies, one recently in Spain, where they showed that people with, low levels of vitamin D seem to have a worst case scenario when they get this illness, right? The symptoms are more acute. So it's best, I think, for people to protect themselves now. Don't wait until you have it, right? Preventative is always better than cure. And I think, if your system, it doesn't mean you're not going to get it. However, how you cope with it or how your body system copes with it might be a totally different thing, right? So,
Absolutely. And when we were there, I mean, I think that was when you couldn't find hand sanitizer to save your life because everybody just went out and bought all the toilet paper and hand sanitizer.
and toilet paper.
And yeah, but it wasn't even at a mask a point. It wasn't, keep your germs to yourself and wear a mask.
Mhm.
It was just hand sanitizer. And I realized when I was in the airport how many touch points, like it was like you would have to live in a bubble to be sanitized 100% when you're going through situations like that, like in all of those areas. So I think we know a little bit more about it now too. And me, and at first they said you may be immune to it afterwards, but now they say no. So I mean, I could get it again. So I keep my immunity up. I work with you. I wear my mask. I sanitize my hands and I wash my hands. Just play safe.
Yeah, play safe. So,
Mhm.
so your advice to people listening into this that, are we're all at risk right now. Everywhere we go, we're at risk, right? Whether we're masked or not. And I want to say that out loud because, I'm in a hospital environment 1 day a week. And let me tell you something, I'm seeing staff getting COVID, actually higher numbers, not too much higher, but higher numbers than the actual inpatients in the hospital. But the weird thing is when you look at this, they're in masks, right? They're in PPE. They're doing everything they can to sort of keep themselves and their families safe, but they're still getting it, right? And so I don't know what my message is to people out there, but every tool that you have in your box, every single tool, right? Take things that build your immune system, the supplements before it happens, build that up. Um, you know, I wear a mask. I'm not judging people that don't wear a mask. To each his own. It's your life, it's your decision. However, if that 3-layer mask or that N95 mask, the KN95 masks give you some protection against the amount that you inhale, which may hopefully mean that you're not as critically ill. Why wouldn't you take that extra precaution? If I see something that works, I read a huge PubMed article on melatonin the other day, and some new studies that are showing that, melatonin helps with the inflammation, right? This cytokine storm that people are getting that creates this huge amount of inflammation, that there's some help with that. Do you think I'm not going to have melatonin in my house? No, it's a thing I can add to my toolbox, right? So I think we all need to read as much as we can, do the research ourselves. We are in charge of our own health. We are in charge of our own survival. And I think we need to make sure that we have an educated idea as to what we need to do to stay safe, right? And keep others safe in the process, right? I would hate to feel that, that one day I was there, I picked something up and then I went into a grocery store and gave it to somebody else, right? So I try to do everything I possibly can to make sure that I'm keeping others safe, right? It's not so much about me, it's more about others as well. So do you have any tips or advice or anything you'd like to pass on before we close out?
No, I don't think so. I think that maybe the only thing I would say is it doesn't come in a neat little package like we first assumed. It's
Yeah.
not one size fits all. It's very different. The loss of smell, the cough, the fever, and my littlest one, it was a runny nose. So it's coming in a whole host of different ways, and it's impacting people so differently. So for one person, the severity in which it hits them is different too. So that's the reason to stay safe. I know there's a lot of people who get sick and come out of it, and it's a really nasty week and a half. But there's a lot of people now suffering from the effects that it's left them. So even if you do get it, then the effects afterwards can be so hard to come back from. It takes a long time to build up that energy. And, now that I've had it, I talk to other people who have had it. And that's not just a me thing. I'm not the only one in this category who felt like, or does feel like they have their energy is not the same, or like there's just something that's not the same with them. They just don't feel 100% back to the way they were before. So this is not some common cold.
Yeah, and it's not about how many people are surviving and how many people are dying per se. I mean, it's terrible that people are dying, and my heart breaks for these families. It's also about, well, even the ones who are surviving, long-term health side effects, long-term. So
Yeah.
avoidance is the best plan,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
Stay
I would have
safe.
never saw that coming. Like I would have never saw that, after it, I've had many conversations with my colleague, and we both say, if we could have went back to the day before we left on the travel and made a different decision, then we would have made a different decision. We would have stayed put. Now, would that mean that I would have never ended up with COVID? Who knows? I may have gone in somewhere else, but that situation of it, definitely. Because if I could go back and change the last, 6 months, 9 months of my life and dealing with that energy, the inflammation, the not being myself, yeah, I want that back. But I don't have that back. And I don't look at myself as a sickly person either. I look at myself as a healthy person. And so I don't associate myself with that. I'm moving forward. But if I could have all that back, yes. And I do feel like that now. I mean, you help me get there. But
Oh,
for those months, it was hard. It was really hard. But I would say now, like when we did my last review, I feel incredible. I feel finally back to myself.
that's good. I'm glad to hear that.
Mm-hmm.
Catherine, thank you for being willing to share your experience with so many people. I think you're going to change lives for people. I think you're going to maybe change how some people are thinking, and hopefully they'll take some of the tips you've given them today. And if you have any questions, please post them below. We'll make sure that we get back to you. Catherine's really good at answering as well. So if she sees it before I do, I'm sure she'll let you know. So I just want to mention, if you're a practitioner in any way, shape, or form in the wellness industry, please check out our website at a different kind of better.com. We would love to have you be part of our movement to educate the world on different ways to heal. It's not much to be a member of this platform. It's a member-based platform, but we'd love to talk with you and share it with you. We have an amazing IT person who looks after all our SEO. So great visibility and a great opportunity to get your message out. So please check that out. If you have any questions, also message us. And thank you, Karen Ansel McKinnon, for building an amazing platform that allows the world to see us. Take care, everybody. Have a great holiday season. We will not be doing any more lives at fives until the new year. So we'll see you in 2021. Take care, stay safe, and do what it takes to stay healthy. Take care for now. Bye.
Bye.